Welcome to Westworld FM, a podcast about HBO's Westworld. My name is Alex.
And my name is Nick.
Today we will be discussing episode 8 of the show titled Trace Decay. We will not be discussing the next time on preview at the end of the show, but we will be spoiling everything through episode 8 of the series, so please pause and go catch up if you're not current with the show. You can find more of our episodes at westworld.fm. We're also Westworld FM on Twitter, and you can send feedback to westworldfm@gmail.com to tell us what you think of our show and share your thoughts on HBO's Westworld so we can read them on our show. Send us corrections, observations, or anything regarding Westworld or our podcast, much like these people did. Quinn wrote into us on our Twitter and said, couldn't agree more about Charlotte character actress studied at the Pretty Little Liars School of the Arts. Awesome otherwise. I sent that one to you via text and you laughed at it.
Yeah, savage.
Yeah, pretty savage. But we also got a tweet from our buddy Joep. It's a tweet to a video that is about Anthony Hopkins' work on the show. Did you end up watching the video?
I did.
I like it quite a bit. It's a very cool video.
It's a resounding like. I like it quite a bit too. I actually think that's the kind of web series I've been waiting for because we talked about this on the Film Nerds podcast a lot. I would frequently talk about my love for when really good actors step into what should be paycheck roles and they don't just phone it in. Mm-hmm. Willie talked about this extensively in terms of villains. Yeah. But I like to talk about it in bit roles. Yeah. My favorite example is James Earl Jones in The Sandlot. Mm-hmm.
I think we've talked about that performance
before.
Yeah,
definitely more than once. John Candy in Rookie of the Year. Awesome. Yeah. There's a lot. They seem to revolve around comedy, too. Sometimes people step into these small roles and they really go for it. Yeah. Anyway.
But no, it's a great video. It dissects the conversation between Teresa Cullen and Robert Ford in episode 4. And it just kind of...
At the farm or the plantation.
Yeah, at the plantation. And it very granularly dials through Anthony Hopkins' performance. Yep. And it's very cool. So go to westworld.fm and click on this post. I'll have a link to it there. It's very awesome. So thank you, Joep, for sending it. The video is called Westworld, What Makes Anthony Hopkins Great.
Thank you.
So, yes. And then back to Tessa Thompson. Uh-huh. We've got an email from Tom. Tom writes in saying, hello, nerds. Great job on the episode so far. A lot of the non-theory-based discussions you have made me rethink each episode. Specifically for the last episode, Tremblay. I believe Nick said he didn't like Tessa Thompson's character and her performance. I have a considerable crush on her, see Dear White People and Creed, so it was very difficult for me to listen to her getting ripped apart. However, hearing that made me reanalyze what I saw. I understand her power plays, in parentheses, he says, banging Hector, smoking Cullen's cigarettes, and laying around. But the execution of this power could have been a little better. She seems to find joy in overpowering her colleagues and has that smug smirk on her face when telling Cullen what time it is. It reminded me of Negan and his behavior in The Walking Dead. These two shows are miles apart in terms of quality and themes. Tessa Thompson's character could have been more effective if she was more stern and professional. If she mirrored Anthony Hopkins' performance, there would be an awesome juxtaposition between the two powers.
I'm sorry, Tom.
No, I think he agrees with you, though. He mostly agrees with you, but I don't know. I understand what they were going for. I think it would have been very boring and boilerplate if she was just very stately.
No, I agree.
Ford-like.
I agree as well. If she had been kind of a contemporary of Teresa, it would have been probably a pretty dull scene. I get what they were going for. It just felt like it came off a little more Jared Leto and less Heath Ledger, if that makes sense. Like there was a certain amount of like lolcats to it that I just didn't appreciate.
I think some of the problem, I don't know how much of it is her, because I think she's very good.
She was awesome in Creed. I'm really glad he did say that, and I forgot to talk about that too. She was really, 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 really good in Creed. Yeah, and I can't and it's not the material, that's for sure. No, and it's not like she's the one character they're like, just write shit dialogue. Who cares?
I think the way that it is that it's she's young and she's trying to show somebody older than her and somebody who we've seen in a position of power that she is more powerful than them. And so that feels really weird, having a young person being the superior to this older person that has been a power on the show for us when we haven't even seen her at all before this. So it's kind of like I think it's the situation is a victim of circumstance. I think she's just like there's too much built up around her, so that any little crack in her performance is going to lay waste to all of the work that they need to do around them. So I think it's an interesting choice, but I don't think they quite cracked how to portray what they wanted to. You
think we're unconsciously unsettled by watching a millennial like one up their superior from an older generation? I
think there are a lot of people that feel that way, of like, why is this millennial here? But then I was listening to another podcast or something. We're talking about, well, living in San Francisco, you walk around and see all of these stupid millennials that are like in power at these dumb startups that make too much money for their own good. So it's not like it's that far out of left field anymore, but no, I think it just feels weird.
I think we kind of all universally agree that we understand why, we understand what they're going for, and as a result, we accept what we were presented, because we understand the intention and we understand the messages being conveyed. Obviously, like we said, we can't fault the material. We understand the relationship. The scene got the point across. It just was, and you know what? And she's a lot better in this episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think maybe it was just kind of a rough introduction or something, or maybe just the director didn't quite have enough time or something to kind of sculpt that into what it needed to be.
Yeah,
which is fine.
Yeah.
This is really funny that this is the one thing that multiple people have emailed and tweeted about and like latched onto. I mean, it's fine. I'm glad that, for once I'm not necessarily the unpopular opinion.
No, and I don't think you are. I think there were people talking about it on the subreddit as well.
But I was watching this week and I was like, okay, well, and she was way better.
Yeah,
like, she was good.
Yeah, I agree.
I would say so.
Anyway,
I'm glad to hear from the guys.
Yeah, well, Tom has a few more things here. He says, this show is special to me because science fiction is my favorite genre, and I'm studying computer science in college. There are countless class hours that I spend zoning out and thinking about the algorithms and logistics necessary to make Westworld possible. Thankfully, the writers keep the sci-fi soft and don't try to explain everything. This helps the world building, pun, be more mystifying and keeps me looking for anything that would attract a greyhound. I can only think of two shows that make the computer jargon effective: Silicon Valley and *Halt and Catch Fire*. Yes, everybody should watch *Halt and Catch Fire*.
What about Mr. Robot? Maybe Tom hasn't watched Mr. Robot.
I think Mr. Robot does an okay job too, but I would be interested to hear what Tom thinks on that. He might have seen more of it than me because I've only seen a couple episodes.
Oh, okay.
But that being said, I'm glad that Westworld is choosing the safe option. It turns out to make the content more compelling. Here are some of my theories and predictions. I won't explain them because we don't need any more walls except for Matt Damon's. That's a joke to his Great Wall of China movie coming out.
Oh, boy.
Also, I don't read Reddit nor watch The Next Time On, so forgive me if the internet hive mind has debunked these. The elusive board, quote unquote, is made up of hosts designed by Ford. Maybe.
The what?
The board. Just the board of...
Oh, the board of directors.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
Maybe. Who knows? He says Elsie is dead as fuck. More on that later.
Yes.
Cullen will be replaced with the host. Didn't happen this episode. I don't think so anymore because she's been presented as dead as of this episode. But I was totally there.
Yeah, I think we both were definitely thinking that she was being 3D printed in the basement.
Yeah. William is not the Man in Black, is what he says. Interesting.
Does he elaborate or just...
No, he didn't want to elaborate on anything.
Oh, come on, Tom.
Yeah, well, you got to
write
in.
No, that's fair. I understand. But just a sentence with no alternative is really funny. I was reading some people today that still they're like single timeline truthers, and they think that these are all separate characters. This is all happening concurrently, and it's good.
It's interesting. It's a very
more on that later.
It's gonna, and then there's the one comment that you showed me about. Well, Will could be any Will. William's a very generic name.
Or he could say his name was Bill, and they'd be like, he didn't say William. And the quote that made me laugh out loud was him saying, "My name is Billiam." For some reason, that just got me. So I started laughing at work.
It was pretty good. A few more predictions from Tom. The center of the maze is achieving immortality, a.k.a. becoming one with the machines. See Mass Effect 3. Possible, but maybe. I don't know. I think that's part of it, at least.
Can you really just see Mass Effect 3?
Well, no, but see transcendence? No, you don't want to tell anybody to do that.
That's true. I'm just kidding.
Maeve learns that she can't get out into the real world, so she spreads her sentience to all other hosts. It's pretty intriguing. I could see that.
Hive mind?
Yes.
Maeve mind?
And then after a greyhound catches and kills the cat, it looks for another cat. There's always another cat. Loops for humans, man. More loops. Always loops. And then finally he says Stubbs is a double agent or not. Who knows? ? So.
Stubbs.
Yeah. Stubbs is pretty good. Tom also wants to know what we thought of Arrival, but I don't think you've seen it yet.
I haven't. No, I haven't had time to go. I might go this week.
I'm hoping we can get the band back together at some point before the end of the year and talk about a few of the bigger things that we've missed.
Yeah, that would be cool. So, kind of a holiday roundup.
Yes. So, Tom, thank you for writing in. We appreciate your email very much. And then we do have another email from Nancy, but I'm going to read that one after we go through our episode. So.
Okay. Thanks, Tom.
Yes.
We'll play a game together one of these days.
Yes. So, on to the episode. I'm going to break it down like I have been doing the past 2 weeks. Let's start with Dolores and William. I am going to stop a few of these short until we get to the Man in Black, essentially, because there's a lot of cross-cutting with the Man in Black at the end of this episode.
Yeah.
So, Dolores and William, they come across a bunch of dead Confederados, and Dolores flashes back to see herself dead in the stream. She hears "Come Find Me," which we presume is her bicameral mind. And she turns around and can't see William. More evidence to the multiple time frame theory. And then William and Dolores do find the old town, which is Escalante, or they get to where Dolores wants to be. And she seems to recall this whole long sequence. We see a shot of her back in her old clothes, walking through this town, seeing all these people around her. She sees Lawrence's daughter there. And then she ends up seeing this massacre happening around her. Remarkably, a lot like what we've seen Wyatt
regarding Wyatt
in Teddy's flashbacks. And then she seems to have trouble placing herself in her memories of like, what's going on? When is this? When am I? Are you real? And then finally they end up leaving, but then they go and run into Logan.
Yes.
So thoughts on this particular week for William and Dolores?
I am re-engaged with their story as of this week, and it might be because they only took up a few minutes of the episode, so to speak. Like they're good and small, but it felt like we had some forward momentum with their story.
Yeah,
and we're getting tantalizingly close to some answers, which is we've reached a point in the series in general right now where we see the finish line. We know we're only 2 episodes away.
Yeah.
And so we know there's just an info dump coming. Or we hope so.
Well, and that's the thing is like, is there an info dump or not? Like, are they going to leave stuff open or not?
I think they'll leave some stuff open. But I think based on what we've been told by some of the people involved in the show, that fans will walk away at the end of the season being satisfied with where they're at.
Yeah.
It's going to take
a
pretty good amount of stuff for me to be satisfied, or at least give me enough where I can fill some gaps rather than speculate. Speculation's fun, but it's kind of a sticky situation right now because we know it's coming, and as a result, any prolonging just freaks me out because I'm like, what are these last 2 episodes going to be?
Yeah.
But I think we were given a lot of stuff to chew on in Dolores's scene. The her turning around and not seeing William, it did not even occur to me that was a different time. Like I was just like, that's weird. Where'd he go? Like, I did not to nest quote unquote present day in the middle of a scene for like a shot and then go back to what we were currently doing. Oh my God.
I think
that's amazing.
That is the biggest thing that the single timeline truthers are not even thinking or considering.
Yeah.
And I know because I was reading through my notes for episode 4 earlier, and I got to the point where they talk about how someone in the control room notes that Dolores is off of her loop. I was like, oh, that deconfirms everything. You can go back and listen to that episode if you want to hear me say that.
Yeah.
But upon rewatching that scene, you can see the the breath that they're giving themselves between these cuts, where you're not seeing certain people in these cuts, and it could be broken out into separate timelines.
Well, yeah, we took because that was at the well,
rather.
Right?
Yep.
And then I said, what if she's literally exactly retracing her steps and she's in the same place? And you went,
yep, yeah.
That's right. I'm so glad you. What episode was that?
Episode 4. That was Dissonance Theory.
I was thinking about that earlier today. Thinking about that scene. Yeah, because I didn't even think about that when she turns around and it's like the same.
After that point, when I hopped back on that train, I went back and rewatched the first 3 episodes again and watched all of the scenes with Dolores. And there's very deliberate. You remember the scene where the gun disappears in her drawer and stuff like that. There you can kind of clearly denote, like if you go down and download all of these and then you cut apart all of the Dolores scenes to then reorder in a proper chronological order or something, I think it can be done because there's never anything. They don't slip up there. There's no anachronisms. There's no points where you see William but you shouldn't.
Oh yeah, your case would have to be airtight.
And I think it is.
The Nolans are good at that. We've established plenty of times. I noticed today people were grabbing screen grabs of the little like half wall in the Mexican town, the one that gets shot.
Yeah,
the guy gets shot through, and in another episode, you see a man in the background like patching it, and you see a rug draped over it at another point. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I'm really excited to go back and look for all that kind of stuff, or to have the internet pointed out for me because I probably won't notice it. Anyway, the scene was really, really good, and I think that's really funny. I didn't even think about that. Like I said, I was just engaged, and like she turned around, and I was like, huh. What's she experiencing?
Yeah.
And obviously, like, I'm kind of at the point where almost everyone is an unreliable narrator at this point.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of sitting there just with my eyes and my mouth open, just watching the TV. Like, and when it's all done, then I'll start to think about it.
Yeah.
Because for now, it's like I feel like I'm just being handed evidence. And it's not enough yet to do a ton with, besides speculate, which is fun. Yeah. The town was really cool, though.
I think it's called Escalante. I've seen a few people write it as Escalante, so I don't know where that came from exactly. But
doesn't Teddy say that? Doesn't he say the name Escalante?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's when he's talking about when he's flashing back and talking to. It was probably when he was talking to Ford after getting the new storyline.
I think he's talking. He says it to the Man in Black. I think he says they got to get to Escalante, but they either have to go this way or there's a shortcut. Okay. Isn't that where they're ultimately heading?
Yeah. Yep.
So that must be it.
Yep.
And so it seems like it was once kind of a training ground for new hosts.
Yeah, I don't know that if it was necessarily purposefully used as a training ground or if it was just that's where they were doing that stuff.
I saw somebody refer to it as the beta, or when Westworld was in beta, because we assume during that sequence it's when Arnold is still around.
Yep.
And we see scientists in lab coats openly out and engaging them, and we see Armistice.
We see Armistice there without the tattoo on her face. Yep. We see Maeve there as well.
And we see Elon Musk's ex-wife.
Yeah, her name's Angela in the show, which I don't know where anybody got that from because they haven't said her name once. Sure. But I was calling her intake host because she's the one that brought William in. But
yeah, and we see her in 2 other places in this episode we'll get to.
Yeah.
But I think that was really cool, the idea that maybe they were training sort of on site, almost ushering them in and like kind of acclimating them to the world. I think that it was really cool to see the scientists hands on, and like it was just really cool. Yeah. I really liked that.
No, it was very interesting. I enjoyed that sequence quite a bit, and I'm very interested to see what's going on. There's glimpses of during the shootout, when she's seeing the shootout, you see glimpses of a figure behind a bunch of smoke, and it looks like it could be Teddy. Teddy is there for the shootout when Dolores was there.
Yeah. Oh, probably.
So that's
she probably killed him too.
Yeah. Who knows?
This seems like the event when Ford. What Ford was referring to when he said Dolores was working with Arnold to help destroy the park.
Yeah.
It seems like Dolores, for lack of better term, is Wyatt. Kind of how it seems.
Yeah, that's kind of what it's heading towards. Or at the very least, that this new storyline is the Wyatt that is being built is based on Dolores.
Yeah, so a Wyatt, as we've seen him so far, like Lemmy Kilmister basically is kind of what he looks like. He could be real. Like that host could have been made to fit the narrative, but the event is based on Dolores's rampage that she went on. And Ford says something to that effect when he's talking about his new storyline. He says it's rooted in truth. Rooted. I think that is what he said. Yeah, rooted in truth, something like that. And this seems like Arnold somehow has Dolores try to bring the park down by either killing all the hosts and herself. I don't know. It seems like she was the weapon.
Yeah. I
know she's pretty deadly with a gun.
Yeah.
I've seen this.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I can't put the pieces together yet, but
well, is Escalante? It's the town with the church, right? The burned down church.
Yeah, the town with the church that, if we're to believe the 3 timelines that are going on, time frames, 35 years ago, the town is built. We see the testing happening.
Yes.
That's the scene that she's flashing back to.
Okay.
And then 30 years ago, she's there with William. The steeple is the only thing poking out, along with a few other rooftops in this big
that was
barren
so
plain.
cool. Yeah. That was such a cool. They just filled it in.
Yep.
So
they just dumped a bunch of dirt.
The steeple didn't
it.
even burn to the ground, which is what I initially thought. They just literally turned it into like a landfill.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yep. And then present day, it looked to me as if we get a very small glimpse of Dolores. Dolores kind of runs ahead of William, and then it cuts to where we see her looking at the town in the new clothes. So I think that's got to be current day, where Dolores is maybe all on her own, retracing her steps.
And the town has been excavated.
Yes, by Ford.
And is being prepped for its final role
in this new storyline.
Giant, opus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was thinking without knowing it. So good job extrapolating from my brain.
You're welcome.
Am I a host, Alex?
I don't know.
I mean, I'm a host right now, but
does this look like anything?
Did you create me and everyone else to be on your podcast?
to live out my podcasting dreams? Maybe.
Oh boy. I would have hoped that we'd be on a more successful podcast.
Yeah, that would be nice.
We have good fans.
My dreams can only go so far, Nick.
We're working. It's beta mode.
Yes.
No, that's so cool. This is really awesome. I can't wait to see how this all shakes down. Like, that town has a really cool vibe, and it's some shit went down there, and I'm excited. We're kind of definitely building to like a OK Corral kind of situation there, where I think it feels like a lot of parties are going to converge there.
Yeah.
And some shit's going to happen there again, and that's going to be so awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a Western. You can't forget that. Although it's this giant sci-fi story, at its root, it's a Western. And what's a Western without a good old showdown in the middle of the town?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, we'll see.
Let's do it.
We'll see what it is. Then I think we can cut over to Maeve, unless you have any other thoughts on Dolores and William.
Nah.
All right, so Maeve gets to meet the new Clementine in this episode. We get House of the Rising Sun on the player piano.
Yep. Which
was fun, especially with like the time dilation that they kind of do on it to slow it down and make it sound all strange.
That was cool.
When Maeve wakes up in the HQ, she learns a few things. She learns that host minds are different. Their memories are recalled perfectly, while humans recall things hazily. This is the title of the show, Trace Decay. The idea that human memories kind of degrade over time, whereas these people, the host, just kind of record it to their hard drive or whatever and then continue living life. But then if they are able to recall it using reveries, then they are apparently kind of reliving it. And that's kind of what's been happening to Maeve and potentially Dolores as well.
Yeah, it's interesting how it takes over their motor function.
Yeah.
In most instances.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty wild.
We also learned that hosts have a explosive charge in their spine to destroy them if they try to leave the park or act out or whatever.
Or if they're smuggled out.
Yeah. So reports of Cullen's accidents kind of light a fire under Felix and Sylvester to take care of Maeve and get her out of there. She learns that she can kind of get new powers if she gets upgraded by a behavior machine, and potentially be able to kind of rewrite other hosts and things like that. And then so Felix and Sylvester take her to do that, and she gets upgraded. She also goes and stabs Sylvester, but then has Felix save him because they might need him later, which is brutal.
That was nuts.
And then the final thing about Maeve before we get to Westworld HQ, I wanted to say she starts to recruit her army. We see her in Westworld changing narrative code on the fly just by speaking to people, a lot like Ford seems to be able to do almost. Yep. And then she still continues flashing back to her previous build. Yeah. So Maeve, before we get to any of the final scene stuff, what do you think?
OP.
She's a bit too OP.
Please nerf Ford. Felix has crossed the line now into that moron henchman that's in every movie, the one that's working for the bad guy, and
knows he's doing bad,
and then
things.
says, "You promised no one would get hurt," and everyone watching it goes, "Yeah, duh."
Yeah,
like there's that character so often, and he's the one you're so exhausted of, and you're like, there's always that knucklehead who has good intentions or whatever, but is clearly doing something bad and scary, and against the advice of others.
Yeah.
And then has that moment of regret, and they say, "You promised nobody would get hurt." No,
yeah.
Sylvester, no.
I feel like they've gone back to this well one too many times.
Yeah, I was fine with Felix and Sylvester. I was like, well, what they're doing is dumb, but this just must be how these characters are.
Yeah.
And now Felix has finally crossed that line. Like, okay, you obviously need to pull the plug because she will kill humans to get what she needs. And potentially everyone who works there. And she's talking about building an army, for Christ's sake.
She even has a quote where when he says, "I thought you weren't going to kill anybody," she says, "Oh, darling, you of all people should know how duplicitous I am."
Yeah. So for me,
hit the explosion button right now.
Yes.
Blow her up.
Yeah. Blow the torso in half, explain what happened, take your lashing.
Yep.
Because
she's gonna kill everybody.
There's gonna be some violent ends to these violent delights going down right here. And yeah, it's bad. If anything, he wouldn't. He wouldn't be able to talk his way into a promotion and say, "Look what I did. I fixed it, but look what I can do."
Yeah.
Ford might?
No.
Gone.
Ford might kill him and replace him with a host. But
yeah. It's we know that. I mean, as far as where he's standing, I mean, at this point, no rational person can possibly continue down this road.
And really, people are still kind of explaining it as he's clearly coming to see her as a human who should be pitied and kind of who needs to be more respected than she is in her role, kind of thing. But to me, it just kind of is like, I don't know. I feel like Felix is probably smarter than that.
The whole situation is just a giant cry for help and cry for attention on Felix's part.
Yeah.
Someone needs him.
Yep.
For once.
Yep. And so
it's fulfilling some desires in him to have a beautiful woman need his help in order to, it's kind of like Dolores and William in a way.
Yeah.
But it's just pathetic.
Yeah.
Like I was okay with it before, and I was like, but Felix he knows his position in the food chain. He understands his role in the circle of life.
Yeah.
And he accepts it. And Felix is. You
mean Sylvester does?
Sylvester, yeah. What did I say, Felix? I'm sorry, Sylvester. Yeah, and so now I'm pretty much I'm not on board with Felix anymore.
By the way,
they need to do something with this character, like kill him.
The actor who plays Sylvester, Ptolemy Slocum, did an AMA on Reddit today, and I saw he actually played the bus driver in Preacher.
Oh, it is him.
Yeah, Linus is his name. So I knew that I had seen his name somewhere before.
That's funny.
Yeah. So if you want to hear us talk about Linus, go listen to Gone to Texas.
I was just thinking yesterday, it was one of the very few notes I took in this episode, that there must be a giant collection now of Sylvester side-eye gifs available. Because in every episode, there's a shot of him staring, and then he goes and just looks to the side at Felix without turning his head. It happens in every episode. More than once, probably.
There's got to be a wealth of them there.
Just so many side-eye instances.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's really all that we need to say about Maeve at the moment. She's clearly preparing to escape, wants to get out of there.
Yeah, I really like Maeve, but at this point, I need her to...
She's got to break away from Felix and Sylvester.
She does, yep. She needs to become self-reliant.
And it seems like we're getting...
Yeah, I think we're kind of there. As long as she stays in the park. That's the thing now. I think she needs to stay away from them.
Yeah.
Because if she dies and she goes back to the chop shop, they're probably going to put her down.
Yep.
So at this point, it's a survival game for her.
Yep. Okay, and then now I want to break over to Westworld headquarters, which we've got stuff with Ford and Charlotte Hale and Sizemore to talk about. So... first off, we get Ford directing Bernard to erase Teresa from his personal life, essentially getting rid of notes and other stuff that she left around his place. Hairs that are in the bed. We see Stubbs and Hale and Ford discussing Teresa's death, which Ford also notes in that scene that he's going to automate most of the park's safety protocols, which I think maybe leaves a hole in defenses, in my opinion, but we can maybe talk about that more later. Sizemore gets drafted by Hale to assist her in her boardly duties since Colin is gone now. Ford finally wipes Bernard's memory, which is when we see Bernard asks if Ford had made him hurt anybody before. Ford says no, but we cut to Elsie being strangled by Bernard. And then two other quick notes. Hale and Sizemore recruit Peter Abernathy for data smuggling purposes, which is exciting. Welcome back, Louis Hertham. We missed you.
Absolutely.
And then Stubbs comforts Bernard, and Bernard can't remember his relationship with Teresa, and Stubbs notices this, which I put in parentheses, like a telltale game.
Stubbs notices this.
Yeah, Stubbs notices
Stubbs
this.
Stubbs won't forget this.
Yeah. So, Westworld HQ stuff.
Oh my God, a Westworld telltale game. Oh,
yeah.
Dude,
yes, please.
What have you done?
God, that would be really good.
That'd be scary good.
So, a few things to talk about. What did you think about the stuff up to this point?
All that stuff?
Yeah.
I liked it. What else do you want to know?
No, so Bernard and Ford, we kind of get a little bit more like...
I loved it. I loved that scene. It's well documented at this point. Anything with Ford is fried gold.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
Pretty much.
100%. It does it for me. And the dynamic between Ford and Bernard has... The relationship hasn't really changed, but it has so much now that we know, and now that Bernard knows. Like in that scene, he knows, and he's like struggling. He's like just trying to process it, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Watching those two, like, I'm surprised the cameras in the room didn't just shut down from the amount of acting. Like,
that was another comment that I saw.
To think that hard drives or film could contain that much acting and still be usable.
Well, somebody brought up the quote about when the Man in Black asked Ford, "If I cut you open, what am I going to find in you?" And somebody just said, "All the scenery that he's been chewing."
Absolutely.
Pretty good.
But see, he's not chewing the scenery. He's just, man. Chewing the scenery to me implies like bad acting. Like, you're just going. It's a really awesome joke, but
I think chewing the scenery implies that the rest of everything around him is not worth noticing. Essentially,
I guess that's true.
But
no, it's phenomenal, those two, and I really want to go back and rewatch that scene.
Yeah,
I should have, because Bernard was heartbreaking the entire time.
Well, we get a few things that I wrote down. We get Ford talks about how he created Bernard to flesh out the host's emotions because human engineers weren't up to the task, which I think is very interesting. It's like Bernard exists to kind of notice people's emotions like he notices Teresa's in the pilot, and just kind of figure out how humans process emotion and show it and things like that, which
That's
I thought
true,
was
because
very
I think
interesting.
I would suppose most humans we're sort of desensitized to it, or to the point where we don't necessarily...
We take it for granted.
It's almost like our own, what's it called? Trace decay.
Yeah.
Because part of the reason we can't recall memories is to it's kind of a priority I think, situation where some memories you can recall really vividly because they're more important, and the rest kind of get pushed to the back because your brain needs to concentrate on other things like keeping it breathing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And obviously the brain is complex enough where we could potentially be better at it. Some people obviously have way better memories. Some people have photographic memories and sort of things. So the mind is capable of handling it, but for the most part, we put it away because we just don't need it. And I think that in that way, our response to other human quirks and what's the word I'm looking for?
Gestures.
Yeah, gestures and like tells.
Yeah.
Like we sometimes don't notice them, and some people are obviously very perceptive at reading them. Like and people are trained in that, like police officers, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. People are trained to notice how people behave, and in a way, I think that that's maybe what Ford means. I almost said Hopkins. What Ford means is by not up to the task. Not that they're not willing to, but they just can't do it in the way that a machine could interpret.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really cool way of explaining why Bernard is so successful at what he does.
Yeah, absolutely. We also get a good Frankenstein quote out of Ford. The one man's life or death were but a small price to pay for the acquirement of knowledge which I sought, and the dominion I should acquire. So
there's been a lot of foreshadowing in this series, especially with Bernard.
Yeah,
somebody pointed out a lot of his lines with Teresa. In regards
Absolutely.
to the hosts
practicing.
They
talk amongst each other while nobody's there.
Yep,
to practice.
And her saying, "Are you practicing?"
Yeah,
and
yes, he was
pretty much. So I'm a little scared that this is foreshadowing that Bernard's going to kill Ford at some point.
Yeah.
Wait, I guess I shouldn't be scared of that, but I'm scared of this show without Ford. I think he's so good.
Yeah. But at the same time, I kind of think Ford has the in Iron Man 3 when there's all the Iron Men underneath the mansion. I think Ford's got a closet full of himself that he can just employ. Like even if he dies, there's going to be machine Fords
upload
everywhere.
His brain.
Yeah, pretty much
into the cloud.
Yep. That's what I'm hoping. That's how they keep Ford around.
Or he's got LMDs.
Yeah, life model. Yes, they're Ford life model decoys all over the place.
The real Ford is just always chilling in that basement, and there's other Fords out there for Bernard to talk to.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
Yes. An army of Anthony Hopkins fighting Maeve's army. Is that what it's going to be at the end?
I hope so.
Has CGI come that far to make like 1,000 Anthony Hopkins?
I think so. It's not. You don't even have to do CGI. You just got to do a couple, green screen shots and then just copy him a couple times.
He's just that good an actor.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me duplicate
myself
real quick.
Please give us 1,000 different performances.
In front of a green screen. Oh man. Like that Jean-Claude Van Damme thing. Oh man, if Anthony Hopkins stood in front of a green screen and just acted out scenes for you to make your own film with.
That'd be pretty good.
Oh my God.
That would be pretty good.
They'd all win Oscars. They wouldn't be able to print Oscars fast enough.
That's true.
All right, we're getting
So yeah, a few other things that we can talk about.
The one that was, I took 3 notes in this episode.
Yeah.
Actually, no, just 2 notes. One of them was a Sylvester side-eye gifts that must be available.
Good.
So the other one I talked about was that Bernard reminds me of kind of Eternal Sunshine, in that he doesn't really want to lose. Wait, I'm thinking of Maeve later when she says she wants to hang on to her pain, which is the line that Bernard says in
Dolores.
relation to his son. Yeah, and I think in that moment, Bernard genuinely believes that. Like he wants to hang on to that because he's knocking on the door of the maze, so to speak, which is something we talked about before we started recording. Like fools. But he's really feeling, and he's saying he loved her, and then I like that he doesn't insist that it's real, like I think most people and most hosts would do. He asks, he wants to know, like, is this real? And and what makes me different from you? Like that whole conversation and the whole idea that, like he says, pain is in the mind, and so at what point is pain even real? What point is anything real?
Yeah.
And this almost made me pause the episode and just think about it for like 10 minutes because it was it might be the most thought-provoking statement of the entire series so far. And I love that Ford already kind of has an answer ready. This is clearly something he's thought about for a long time.
And it's a very interesting way to think about it. He just flat out says consciousness isn't real. We think we're special, but we're not, which I think is mortifying and interesting all in one. Like, that's just such a... I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah, and especially in a world where he's capable of creating beings like this that can clearly think on their own, think and reason on their own if they are permitted to. And I wonder to what extent Bernard is different from the other hosts.
Yeah.
How much can he do on his own? And is Ford... I guess one thing I'm concerned about, and this is something I said to you beforehand, was that is Maeve going to be able to take control of Bernard?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think... I feel like Bernard is on another level in terms of as what hosts...
I guess that's the thing, is we don't know what...
We don't know how...
We don't know what admin privileges Maeve has. She might be like admin number 5, but Bernard is admin number 2, and Ford is admin number 1, or something like that.
Yeah, that's true.
But or maybe she's got Arnold admin privileges, which are probably similar to Ford. Who knows?
Or better, clearly, or higher.
Yeah,
yeah. It's really interesting. The whole scene. I know there's a lot more to chew on I did a really poor job of organizing my thoughts on it. But that was the scene that I was carrying with me into today and thinking about throughout the day. Like I said, largely due to all the acting.
You talked about what does Bernard have that other hosts don't. I think what we may find out, if theories prove to be true, is that he has the consciousness of Arnold. Like, Ford even says that is the very question that Arnold was toiling over. And I think, like you said, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, to me, it almost makes me think, it's like, I wonder how many times Ford has gone through this with Bernard.
Yeah.
And
I really love, I've never, it's funny that I draw the reference because I've never seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, but I know what it's about. And I know the main thrust and kind of the big theme, and that idea of that if you could erase your memory, purge your memory of somebody or an experience, would you?
Yeah.
Should you? And I think that Bernard is kind of almost feeling that in that moment, and it is very interesting how he feels like a man facing his death, like almost, do you have any last words?
Yeah.
And Bernard's about to wipe his memory, and he tells him wait. And
Ford's about to wipe.
Ford's about to wipe his memory, and I like that he just wants to ask if he had hurt anybody else. Like, he wants to know. That's almost the biggest thing in that instance, and I thought that was really nice.
Yeah.
And really sad because he probably has.
Eternal Sunshine is one of my top 5 breakup movies that I watch whenever I get dumped or I dumped somebody, and it's always a wonderful. It serves a very specific purpose for me, and it's very good, and you should watch it.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
What else do we got here? Sizemore and Hale. I don't know if there's too much to talk about there. I think she's just using him like a cheap fiddle.
Yeah, it's hilarious how he is dumb enough to where she can tell him he's using you and then use him.
Yeah.
Whatever.
He's using you, but you should help me.
Yeah.
Because you have an ego,
have a real,
and I'm going to stroke it.
I have a real big boy assignment for you. Come with me. Yeah, just dumb.
Absolutely.
I'm pretty played out on Sizemore too.
Yeah.
Initially in the first episode or two, I was like, that guy's interesting, and he disappeared, and I was cool with it, and now he's back, and I'm not cool with it. I'm like, whatever. Give this screen time to somebody else.
Yeah, I heard somebody was theorizing that maybe Sizemore's disappearance from the show after a certain point, and then kind of re-entrance, was that they didn't really know what to do with him, and that now they kind of brought him back in because they kind of found a purpose to him. But
maybe he is host now.
Maybe, who knows?
Ford's just been swapping people out.
Yeah, nobody's real anymore. That was another good. I think Joanna Robinson retweeted something earlier. Yeah, Joanna Robinson got an email from somebody that says, I have a question. How much of the Westworld HQ has to be robots for no one to notice Bernard? And then they have a little dialogue written here. It's Ford. Here's Bernard. He will be head here from now on. And then HR says, we need this information for records and taxes. And Ford says no. It's like, yeah, there's what? How did he just get in there? But I don't know. It's those mechanics of how Bernard came to be in the park are mysterious.
Ford says
at the
no.
moment. Yeah, Ford says no, and then the robot HR people just take his word and walk away. But all right, I think that's about it for the Westworld HQ stuff. We should probably know, as you said, Tess Thompson, I think, does a very good job in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So Maybe it was just the way that stuff was last episode.
The way that stuff was.
All right, and then let's get to Teddy and the Man in Black.
Yeah.
Our friend Teddy Zoolander. He and the Man in Black get closer to Wyatt. Teddy starts to remember things a lot like Dolores and Maeve have been remembering things, especially in terms of the Man in Black dragging Dolores off. And he decides to essentially knock out the Man in Black after they find Angela, the intake host. There's a good line there where the Man in Black thinks that they would have retired Angela by now. Mm-hmm. Another suggestion that he might be William, or William might be him. Teddy starts interrogating the Man in Black, and we get a lot of Man in Black backstory here. He talks about knowing how to change the rules of Westworld, and he talks about how he's a god and a titan of industry and a philanthropist and a family man. He's got a daughter. His wife killed herself last year after taking some pills because she couldn't deal with the darkness of the man that he is. Apparently his daughter said, if I stacked up all my good deeds, it was just an elegant wall I built to hide what was inside from everyone and from myself. And then the Man in Black came to Westworld to do his own test. He found Maeve with her daughter, killed them both, but then he just stabbed Maeve, and Maeve basically stops herself from dying to then slash his throat and then take her daughter and kind of grieve over it. Any thoughts from there?
Ed Harris is very, very, very good.
Yes, he is.
We know this already. He's done 50 Shades of Menace this whole series thus far, and now we finally get the one thing I didn't want, humanizing the Man in Black a little bit. And you know what? I just didn't know that I wanted it. It was really good. It was a great scene. I guess humanizing him is kind of the wrong word. He's not necessarily more sympathetic now. We just kind of know a little bit more about him.
Yeah.
Which did have to happen eventually. And it's funny because it's one thing that's been pushed off for 8 episodes now. And I don't really mind that because he was a great sub-in for the Yul Brynner Man in Black gunslinger. And that was one thing I always thought, it's still one of my favorite things about the show. And that idea of taking the gunslinger and kind of turning it on its head. It was an unstoppable robot menace before, and now it's like an unstoppable human menace to the hosts. Mm-hmm. And I think that's such a clever way of turning that over. And I do like now that it feels like there's more at stake for him.
Yeah.
Because before I think he could have died, and I would have been really bummed out that we would have lost a really cool character, kind of a force of nature on the show. But now I think I'm a little more invested in his journey, because we knew he had a respect for Westworld and he loved it, and he really has a passion for the creations inside of it and the game, as it were, and what it does to you. And we got that echoed line of it reveals who you are, who you really are, which is what William said 2 episodes ago or something like that. So, take that for what you will. They're repeating the same lines. So
they're also wearing the same shirt. I don't know if you've seen that.
No.
But they are wearing the exact same shirt in a few different. They've both got this like gray shirt that has like an open collar and these vertical lines in it, and it's on both of them.
He also has the same line to Lawrence that William does.
Yep.
When they're parting ways or something like that. There's a lot of parallels going on, but that scene was great. I just thought it was just phenomenal. Yeah,
and it's. I was listening to a few people talk about it last night. David Chen does a Periscope stream on it after he watches every episode, and he talks with one of his friends about it essentially, and they were both pretty disappointed in the Man in Black. They were just kind of like, he was this man built out of mystery, and now that there's a lot less mystery to him, they don't know how much they care about him anymore.
Oh wow.
Which I think I fall more on your camp of like, I think listening to all of this, my only issue with everything that has happened in this episode, which is something that we talked about earlier, I feel like the pacing went out the window in terms of answering questions as of this episode. because they are in crunch time. They're like, we need, and maybe it was like, we got to get all this stuff out of the way. So episodes 8 or 9 and 10 are going to be supremely paced and everything that we want them to be and whatever. It feels like everything fell on episode 8 to be like, here's a bunch of stuff that's going to be important. And now we have to wait and see what comes to pass.
There's a lot of setup.
There's a whole lot of setup. And it's not like we haven't had episodes with a whole lot of setup before. So it's kind of, that's the only thing that I don't like about it. But the Man in Black, I think he still retains this kind of, we don't have all the questions answered about him. I really want to know if this William thing comes to pass or if it doesn't. I want to know, like, what does the Man in Black hope that he's going to find at the end of this journey? And
yeah, I think there's still plenty of mystery about him.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we've had 8 episodes of heavily mysterious Man in Black.
Yeah.
We've watched him do a lot of badass stuff, and we've watched him do a lot of nasty stuff, and we've watched him flaunt his expertise in the world and show how much he knows before it happens. And that, I think, could only go on for so long before it would become exhausting. Like, oh, there he goes again.
Yep.
Crazy Man in Black. Another jailbreak.
Yeah.
I think this is a good time to insert some more history into him. And we still don't know who he is. We still don't know a lot about him.
Yeah.
So I think leveling too much of a criticism at it is a little...
Yeah.
It's nitpicking.
Yeah.
For sure. Especially when it was so well delivered.
Mm-hmm.
And James Marsden does an awesome job acting opposite.
Absolutely.
He's a good listener.
Yeah.
That Marsden.
But even just kind of seeing Teddy take a little bit of power over the Man in Black in this episode.
Yeah, I like watching Teddy get a little empowered and starting to remember, and the Man in Black observing that,
knowing
saying,
that.
Yeah, like, oh, you're remembering. Like,
yeah.
I'm here. I'm seeing some next level shit going on. Yeah, he's pretty stoked about it. Something he doesn't know yet. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Dr. Manhattan in Watchmen when he, towards the end of the movie, and if you've never seen or read Watchmen, read it, don't see it. And I won't spoil anything, but there's the character Dr. Manhattan is pretty much omnipotent, and he gets kind of misdirected towards the end of the movie, and he has a line to a character at one point where he says, I forgot the excitement of not knowing.
Yeah.
And he's the thrill, basically, of anticipation.
Yeah.
Without knowing exactly the outcome. And that's kind of how the Man in Black reminded me of in this episode.
Absolutely.
He's witnessing something
he
extreme.
hasn't seen in his 30 years of coming to this park.
Right.
Yeah.
And in a way, it probably harkens back to his experience with Maeve. He's
Yep.
like seeing something that he knows is special.
Yeah. So he remarks with Maeve that he didn't have a reaction to killing this woman and her child. He said that he wanted to find the most deplorable thing he could do, essentially, and it didn't make him feel anything.
Right.
Which is sad. I don't know any other way to put that.
Yeah.
But we do. It gets to, this is where it starts cross-cutting back and forth between Maeve. Maeve ends up slicing Clementine like she sliced the Man in Black in that memory, essentially. And she's essentially it seems like she's getting her band together to go and escape, but then it starts getting foiled when QA notices that something's going wrong with her.
Mm-hmm. So do you think the Man in Black, obviously he's been coming to the park for 30 years. Do you think every time he came there he was doing bad stuff? Because he talks about how his wife, he never showed them, because Teddy says, did you hurt them? And he says, never. And
yeah.
He says that he kept he kept who he is in the park well hidden from them. So do you think he's been up to no good pretty much the whole time? Like, in that after his wife died, he decided he wanted to do like the deepest, darkest thing he could think of in order to see if he could feel anything, any sort of goodness, because his daughter accuses him of being a monster.
No, I would think that after she died, because that's what he says about Maeve. That's when I first glimpsed the maze.
Mm-hmm.
So him doing that deepest, darkest thing with Maeve a year ago, like the reason that he's been coming back now is to push more people to that limit, I think.
Yeah. Because
he's realized that this is what Arnold wanted. This is what Arnold was talking about.
Right. I guess I'm just, and it doesn't really matter ultimately. I'm just curious about his behavior for the last 30 or
so
I
what do you,
I guess
what
the
do
last
we,
29
What do we
years.
think he's been doing for the last 29 years?
Yeah, I want to know if he's been a seasoned, like, nasty killer, murderer, robber, raper type guy. Rapist, I guess would be the right word. Or I guess, like I said, it doesn't really matter, but I'm curious if he is William. William's obviously a good dude.
Yeah.
He's a white hat.
Why does he? What's the thematic reason to make him a black hat, or why would he do this transition?
Or when, I guess. Like, is it a just kind of a sliding transition, and over the course of time he slowly just started getting darker, or does something happen to him at the end that flips his switch into just bad guy mode? And so he's a good guy in the real world, and he's like the worst, scariest, nastiest dude ever in Westworld.
Some people are saying that we've seen William start that descent because when they're talking to the soldier who's been shot.
Oh, clearly William wanted to kill him.
Clearly William wanted to kill him or just get away, but like some people are saying that when Dolores goes to get the water and then comes back and he's dead, they're thinking that William killed him.
You're right.
But I don't know how much I believe that. I think that dude was on his way out regardless. But the way that I've been trying to put these pieces together is that I think we're going to get to a point with William where Logan probably kills Dolores, is my guess. And I think William is genuinely like in love with Dolores.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll maybe get to see a moment where William tries to, like, Dolores dies, William hates Logan for it. Maybe we get to see the point where William comes back and Dolores doesn't remember him at all, and it just absolutely destroys him. And that's when he just decides to be like, well, if none of this matters, I want to find all the crazy shit that happens in this park. And that's why he keeps coming back. I don't know. I mean,
in a way, kind of like Maeve when she realizes that nothing matters. Yes. She kind of goes off the deep end.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm so curious. I still feel like it feels like if this holds to be true, that William probably is the Man in Black, but I can't still kind of shake the feeling that it could be Logan, and we're seeing kind of a red herring situation.
Maybe,
or it could be neither one.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know what to think anymore.
At this point, I kind of hope that William isn't the Man in Black.
Really?
Yeah, because it feels so logically consistent right now to me that I want them to pull that rug out from underneath me. And
they very well might.
Yeah.
I think it would be very satisfying if William was the Man in Black. It would be a nice, rounded story. Yeah. And it would be something that we can grasp and digest and understand. And that would be nice if they gave that to us.
Yeah.
But I don't think that that's necessarily so much like them. Or maybe it was just something that they thought we would not see coming, and turns out that everybody kind of saw it coming.
In the days of the Reddit hive mind.
Right.
Your TV shows are more transparent than you think. A few other notes about what happened here. We get to see the moment where Maeve gets brought in after the traumatic event, and Ford basically tries to repurpose her. Or get her calmed down. He plays Reverie by WC, I think it was. I can't remember, but that's also the piano theme that we've heard played a few other times in the show. Particularly, I think when we're seeing Charlie in the hospital with Bernard, and other moments with Bernard, to kind of suggest that he's a host. But he starts playing that, and that's apparently a trick that Arnold built in to calm down the hosts when they need to, if they get out of hand or something like that. And basically Ford tries to calm her down and erase her memory, but then she just ends up stabbing herself in the neck, showing that she's been damaged beyond repair, essentially. I think. I guess I don't necessarily know exactly what that, like, if she has gotten to the maze, quote unquote, and that has unlocked her ability to feel the pain and emotion of a human, like, does that mean that she can no longer be brought back to normal state or something like that, and that's why she's able to break out of the her loop and start to learn things about herself with Felix and Sylvester. Like, I don't know. I can't connect all the dots yet, once again.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I think she's clearly kind of a special model, or she's a unique.
She's one of the oldest, apparently.
She is, yeah.
Because we saw her in the flashback.
Someone theorized that because Bernard is in the likeness of Arnold, that it's when she sees him that it triggers something and she kills herself. Like upon looking upon Bernard, it's like a visual trigger. I don't know if that. I doubt that's true. Maybe. It could be, but it was just.
It's a very pointed look at him, but
right? Yeah, and then to kill yourself, extreme. If you're looking at Jeffrey Wright, I wouldn't.
No,
I don't want to talk to him.
Absolutely.
I don't know. It was an interesting scene. I think. I want to go back and figure out exactly what it was. Then I think Maeve she initially starts having flashbacks, right? And she's feeling the pain in her stomach of the knife. She
feels the pain of getting
and then it slowly starts to build into her remembering the containment suits, and then she
feels that pain, but it's kind of, I think we're led to believe that it's because they left a bullet in her, when in reality it seems like it might be because of this thing with the man in black.
Right, or at least the pain of the bullet is triggering the memory.
Yeah,
which would be that's an oops. If someone had just done their job right and removed that
then
bullet,
she would have been fine.
Then OP Maeve wouldn't exist. It is funny how different, talking about this now, how differently Maeve is as a character to me. Back when she first came to inside there and ran around.
Seeing Tandy Newton portray Maeve as the Mariposa mistress or madam against the Little Home on the Prairie. Mm-hmm. There's such a different portrayal, not only in the way that she looks in the costuming and everything, but just the way that she emotes feels so different. Mm-hmm. That is fantastic. Which, once again, Tandy Newton, good job. Like, that's
slay
MVP here. OP MVP.
Slay girl.
MLG 2016. But yeah, no, it's one thing that I did want to know, and there's one last scene for us to go over, but I did realize something earlier, was that she gets called Maeve in that flashback, the 35 years ago. She's called Maeve, and Dolores is still Dolores, but Peter Abernathy has, like, I was thinking about, like, when they get to the point where all of these hosts are self-aware, how are they going to denote each other uniquely, in terms of, like, if you were to say Peter Abernathy, maybe 4 different hosts would run up to you. So what would be what is going to be their unique identifier, which I think is an interesting thought, but it also led me to the, like, why would, when Peter Abernathy's role changed, or when Louis Hertham's character's role changed, why didn't, like, he became Peter Abernathy, but Dolores has always been Dolores for all that we know. Maeve has been Maeve from the beginning up to now, which seems weird to me. There's, like, a disconnect there of, like, do they have like a set of, do they have, like, tiers of hosts of, like, these are tier 1 hosts that Dolores and Maeve, and those people are very important people who will retain their names, but then there's, like,
I think that it's probably a case of characters.
There's the woodcutter. It's like being smiling guy number 2 in the credits, as opposed to being Dolores Abernathy.
Right. I think that it's probably a matter to do with how directly they will interact with hosts.
Yeah.
So that a host who was there 10 years ago can say, hey, look for Dolores when you're there.
Okay.
Or look for Teddy. Or look for Maeve. And he says Maeve was only recently reassigned, like a year ago. She may have been Little House on the Prairie Maeve for like 10 years prior, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It is interesting. Maybe some models are just special, I mean, there might be that last little bit of human element there where Ford looks upon one of his creations and says, like, this one is special. This one gets to be so-and-so.
It could even be just the Arnold factor of, like, maybe these are the ones that Arnold's made, whereas Ford, who wants to tell stories with these guys, lets them shift in and out of roles and things like that. I don't know.
Yeah, it also kind of segues into a question that has bothered me for a while now, especially since we found out that Ford kind of hates Dolores.
Yeah.
Why is she still around?
Why is she still there?
Yeah.
Well, and one of Joanna Robinson's theories is that she thinks that Ford put her on the loop of being continually having all of her people dying and then getting raped essentially as punishment for doing something in the past. Potentially.
I suppose, and I guess Ford doesn't see them as a threat the way we do. He doesn't know what we know, so he would have no reason to suspect
that but I mean, clearly, a threat or something.
But the thing with the scene with Maeve is really interesting because she can act out against their will. She can override her programming.
That should have been the moment.
That should have been when he said, "Whoa, all right," but maybe this is his Felix moment, and he's like, we can fix it.
Yeah,
no machine's gonna get the best of me. I don't know. I just think you would think surrounded by all the other people who would see the situation, they go, okay, we need to decommission her because something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
Or maybe they think they
can
study her.
I think everybody else is probably so like the world is on fire whenever one of these things goes haywire. But Bernard and Ford seem to be the ones that are like, no, this is programming. We can fix this.
And everyone just listens to them.
Yeah. It kind of defers to... Well, they listen to them in some cases, but obviously Cullen was the one who was like, no, we need to decommission these guys because they're not...
That's true.
Operating.
And we saw what happened to her.
Yeah. Yeah. So the final scene, we get the Man in Black beckoning Teddy to head to the maze. They talk about how, or at least the man, like Teddy asks the Man in Black, what do you care about this maze? The Man in Black says it's Ford. In Ford's game, nobody can hurt them, even at the edges of the park. But Arnold's game is going to cut deep, and that is the maze, quote unquote. And just to get through the rest of this real quick, Angela, the intake host, stabs Teddy with an arrow. We find out that she's working with Wyatt. All of Wyatt's men come out, and the Man in Black is screwed, kind of. We'll see what's going to happen to him. But
that seemed really obvious to me that she was left behind intentionally.
It didn't really strike me that way, but I wasn't like surprised by it.
Like when she was still there and she was fine, I was like, no, they would have taken her.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep.
But yeah, I was like, this seems like maybe just a Western trope again.
Yeah.
Kind of thing that she's like the honeypot left behind.
Plant. Yep. But before we recorded, we were or when we started recording, we were talking about the maze. You were intimating that you think the maze is not a physical place. You feel like it's confirmed that the maze is not a physical place, but more like a state of mind for the hosts.
I don't think that's confirmed necessarily, but a lot of people online seem to think so.
Okay.
And I think that's a really interesting theory, and it would make sense why the little girl in the town told the Man in Black that the maze is not meant for him.
Yep.
Because he's a human.
Mm-hmm.
He can't experience the maze, and that the maze is like a state of being that the hosts can, under enough duress or enough pain, cross into, and it's like the line that divides host and human.
Yeah. And
that they can stand on the line and kind of be both. And I think that's a really interesting idea. And there was the scene when Bernard is looking at the tablet with Maeve's diagnostics on it, and it says the heavy fragmentation of her memory, and the little image is basically the maze that we've been seeing.
It looks like a maze,
Right. And coupled with what the Man in Black says about what he saw in Maeve at that moment when her daughter had been killed and she refused to die, like he said, and he saw something in her that was more than host. It was real emotion. It wasn't programming.
Yeah.
Seems to kind of, to me, now that I kind of read that, it seems almost like the Man in Black may have already seen the maze and he just doesn't know it. Or he kind of says that, like he got his first glimpse.
His first glimpse of the maze with Maeve, yeah.
And so I think he seems to think that, I think he might know that Dolores is heading to Escalante. What's it called? Escalante.
Well, and we do not know what he did in the barn with Dolores.
Mm-hmm.
And we get the flashes of him talking about being able to rewrite the rules of the world with him dragging her along into the, or at least that's kind of how it was played, maybe in the next time on from last episode. But it seems to me like it's possible that he set Dolores on this path by giving her that traumatic moment.
Yeah, maybe.
Like he stabbed her in the gut, or whatever he did, and that because he pulls out his knife, and Ford even looks at the knife. That knife means something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the knife's been around.
Yeah.
I think. And the Man in Black seems to have some knowledge that Dolores is kind of important to this whole idea of the maze, and whether he set her on the path to the maze, and maybe he knows Teddy factors into it. I don't know, because they stumble upon Teddy and he didn't count on that, but he immediately traded Lawrence for Teddy.
Yeah, he's like, oh no, it's you.
Yeah,
you're the one.
Yep, I'm swapping. Yeah, and he definitely knows. He knows something that we don't know that he knows yet.
Yeah,
like there is still some mystery to the Man in Black, because he seems to be just about where he wants to be, barring the exception of Wyatt's men getting the drop on them. He seems a little surprised and concerned by that.
Yeah, because the Wyatt stuff is new to him.
The Wyatt stuff is new, yeah, and he even says you guys are both caught up in the same new narrative.
Yeah,
and he's like, he thinks it's amusing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I feel like we have all the puzzle pieces. We just can't.
We're just putting it together upside down. And we don't know it. Yeah, exactly. We don't have the box to show us what it's supposed to look like. Yeah, and it's a 10,000 piece 3D puzzle
of a Jackson Pollock painting.
Yeah, yeah.
To bring it back to Ed Harris too.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we love you, Ed.
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
if you're listening,
there's yeah. Please write in, Ed Harris.
Ed Harris at gmail.com.
Yeah, we should try it. It might be. I'm gonna try Michael Wincott at gmail.com because it might be him. Where's old Bill, by the way?
Yeah.
No, there's something there, and I just can't enunciate what it is right now. And I'm sure on the drive back home, I'm gonna go, oh, there it is.
Yeah, we're both gonna think about it for an extra hour,
and then we'll text each other, and we'll just have to screenshot the text and tweet it so that people can read along.
Yeah.
No, there's something there. There's something. I think he's less of a passenger than we might think he is. I think he set some events in motion, and he's waiting for the rest of the dominoes to fall down. Yeah. I could be wrong.
Yeah, no. That could totally, yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
We'll see. So
I don't think Teddy's dead, by the way.
No.
Okay.
No.
Everyone's be like, oh,
he was like stabbed in the
Teddy
shoulder.
Got killed again. And I'm like, no, Teddy's super Teddy now.
Yeah.
He's Teddy Roosevelt now.
We've seen Teddy die.
He's coming back. Yeah.
Spectacular. We know when they don't shy away from when Teddy dies
no,
in this show.
I think it was either it may have been like there may have been a barbiturate or something on the end of that arrow to kind of drug him out.
Yep.
Or because Teddy's in fight mode right now.
Yeah.
If that arrow had he probably would have punched her right in the face and then put the Man in Black on his shoulder and ran out of there.
Oh boy! All right,
he's got that Zoolander conditioning now. Like Ford talked to him, and he's gonna blitz on past Gary Shandling and Fred Durst and Lance Bass and get to the goal line.
He's gonna assassinate the dude from Micronesia.
Yep.
No. So we did get one last email from Nancy here. She said, "Hi guys, love this episode. Few highlights I enjoyed. Ford telling Bernard he thinks humans live in repeating loops in their own lives. Very interesting." Very true in a lot of cases. Mm-hmm. All the background info from the Man in Black, this idea that he did the worst thing he could to test if he can still feel, and learning that he can't. Absolutely. And then best of all, Maeve, her experience that there are some tragedies we live through that will fundamentally change us to our core, but for her, the literal core programming was altered or imprinted with this horrific tragedy. No matter how many times Ford plays his music and lulls his host to a state where he can do a hard reset, some programs or experiences are never erased. Will never be erased. Like humans, we can bury certain painful memories as best we can, but who knows if or when they will come bubbling up to the surface. I love the show. Nancy, thank you for writing in.
Thanks, Nancy.
Absolutely.
Good to hear from you.
We agree with you.
Yes.
100%. So, yeah, we're getting to the end times here. 2 more episodes left. We'll probably do a season wrap-up show and patiently wait for not patiently wait for 2018 to come for more Westworld.
Oh God.
Yeah, God.
Hopefully at least that soon. Yeah. Like 2020 Westworld season 2.
They got to go and print out
the 5th anniversary of season 1.
But once again, you can find more episodes of our podcast on westworld.fm. We're also on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and Google Play Music. We're Westworld FM on Twitter, and you can email westworldfm@gmail.com to tell us what you think of our show and share your thoughts on HBO's Westworld so we can read them on our show. Send us corrections, observations, or anything regarding Westworld or our podcast. The Midwest Podcast Network has several other shows about video games, horror movies, and more. Please check out all of our shows at MidwestPodcastNetwork.com. Everybody here, if you're listening, please do us a favor. Go give us a review and rating in iTunes. The more that you do that, the more people will see our show, the more popular we'll become, and the more likely we will be to continue the show that we're doing. And you like us. So tell us that you like us, and we will be happy. And you'll probably make me cry. Maybe. We'll see. Try to make me cry. That's your mission. Make me feel something so crazy that I see the maze.
Send Alex to the maze.
Yes. Hashtag send Alex to the maze. Put it out on Twitter. And yeah, that's it for this episode. We're excited for next episode, and we'll have another episode of our podcast out after that. But until then, may you rest and have a deep and dreamless slumber.
It's probably ed.harris@gmail.com.
Ed Harris 69.
No, it's totally Ed Harris 420 at Yahoo. Ed.Harris 420 with like the little X and the big X on either side.
Yes. At earthlink.net.
Tripod. You should leave all this in.